not every day you fall through a hole in the floor, but when it happens, it's not something that you're probably ever going to forget. That's something that I learned when it happened to me. I fell through a vent in the house my mom was renovating, and I learned the hard way just how important it is to watch where you're walking. If you plan on going to a big city, going to a park, going up a flight of stairs, or really just walking anywhere at all, this is going to be an important lesson for you. So based off my story, take this as a good reason to always watch where you're walking. My family spent months looking for the perfect house, and we ended up settling on a house that was built in the year 1897. As you can imagine, the house was not exactly in the best condition. It had a ton of damage, pretty much everything needed to be replaced. All of the walls were painted in weird bright colors, and it smelled completely terrible. My sisters and I were not exactly thrilled, but my mom loved the house, and she thought that it had a ton of potential, so we ended up buying it. All that was left after that was months and months of renovation. We pretty much spent the entire summer of 2019 renovating the house, and my mom spent pretty much every single day there. My sisters and I were pretty young at that time, so there wasn't a ton that we could do, but we helped out however we could. The renovating process included everything from replacing the appliances and cabinets in the kitchen, to replacing the plumbing, to taking down walls, and replacing the floors. And it was the process of replacing the floors that was what led to my downfall, literally. So one important step of replacing the floors was sanding the old floors, and in order to be able to do this, my mom had to first take out the vent covers. And the vent covers that you're used to seeing are typically pretty small and inconspicuous, but because of how old the house is, the vent covers are a lot bigger, so they can actually fit an entire person inside of them. Which, when the vent covers are on, it's totally fine, but when the vent covers are taken off, then there's just a huge hole in the floor, which is, pretty dangerous. And I was at the house with my mom one day when she had been sanding down the floors in the kitchen, so she had taken out one of the vent covers, and she had immediately pointed out to me the second that we got to the house and told me to stay away from that area. Not even 5 minutes later, I was going back through that area, and I was not paying attention at all, and before I knew it, I was falling, and all I could think to do was put my hands out like this to catch myself, and I ended up catching myself on the floor, so I was basically just hanging inside of the vent. My mom had been in the room when it happened, and she didn't at first notice what had happened, but once she did, she shrieked, she ran over to me, and she lifted me up out of the vent. Physically, I was fine, but my pride took a big hit, and that story is still used to embarrass me to this day. So let this story be a lesson to always watch where you're walking. Keep this in mind even when you're in your own house, because you never know when you could find yourself falling into the floor.